Okay, good morning, Year 8. Welcome to your geography lesson. I hope you had a good weekend. Firstly, I just want to take you through the online learning expectations for this lesson. For today's lesson, you're going to need a calculator. Don't worry, we're not doing big sums, but you are going to need a calculator. If you don't have a calculator, there's one on your phone. So you can access calculator on your phone. There should be one on your phone. There's no online worksheet today. You're going to need a blank Word document open. So that'll just be on your laptop if you're using a laptop. If you're not, you can just work with a paper and pen. So preferably lined paper and a pen. That's what you're going to need today. And again, just going through the obvious stuff. Put your mobile phone on silent. Turn off notifications. Ensure there's no background noise in the space you work in to avoid distractions. So close your windows, maybe shut the door, make sure there's kind of no background noise, that might cause a distraction. And yeah, ensure that you have, if you want, you can click on the PowerPoint from the files as well. But all you're really going to need is just a Word document today or an A4 piece of paper. And obviously you should have the video loaded up so you can hear me now. End of the lesson. Remember to upload your work. Some brilliant work last week. And please turn it in on Microsoft Teams if you can. I'd rather you submit it via Microsoft Teams instead of emailing it to me. But if you have to email it to me, that's fine. But you should really turn it in through the assignment on Microsoft Teams. Okay, so this is our kind of Year 8 spring term learning journey. We're still asking ourselves, can the Earth support 9 billion people? And we're still looking at analysing and being able to describe population. And again, this is our kind of unit, big picture. Can the Earth support 9 billion people? So this is your title for today, population explosion. And your retrieval questions, we've just got 4 for you today. So can you get on with the retrieval questions now on your pen and paper or on your A4 or on your Word document? Press pause now. Okay, I hope you have had a go at all of those retrieval questions. We're going to go through the answers now. So number 1, define natural increase. This is from last lesson. Population growth caused by the birth rate being higher than the death rate. So to work out natural increase, you just minus the death rate from the birth rate. Question number 2, by 2050, what is the world's population projected to be? 9 to 10 billion people. We think it's about 10 billion people now. So the world's population is predicted, it's a pretty accurate prediction, to be about 10 billion people by 2050. From last unit, which 2 forces cause plates to move? That is slab pull and ridge push. Remember, the crust and the lithosphere, which is a crust in the upper mantle, is pulling plates by the force of gravity deeper into the mantle. And also ridges on the crust, through the force of gravity, are pushing plates deeper into the mantle. So from last year, can you define deforestation? That is the permanent removal of trees. And then they're removing the trees to use that land for anything other than planting trees. So usually it's something like mining or as farmland or great fields for cattle grazing. Okay, so our lesson objective today is students can analyse how and why global population has rapidly increased. So like I said, we're doing a little bit of a calculation today. It's not going to be difficult. And we're going to be looking at why has global population increased so rapidly since 1950. So I first wanted to kind of give you some feedback from last lesson's work. I was really impressed, actually. I thought we all worked really well. And I saw some fantastic examples. The Microsoft form at the end of the lesson had 95 responders, and I think that's about 98 now, so that's fantastic. But today, I reckon we can reach over 100 people responding or completing that Microsoft form. And what's even more impressive was that 5 out of the 6 questions were answered correctly by 75% of you. So that means 75% of the 95 people that responded got the answer, got 5 out of 6 questions correct. So well done. And the one question that we all struggled with, so question 4, since 1950 global population has, that had the most incorrect responses. The correct answer was rapidly increased. So about 50, I think it was 52%, 54% got this one wrong. So still over 50%, but the correct answer there was rapidly increased. Since 1950, global population has rapidly increased, and we're going to be looking at why that is later this lesson. So our Microsoft Forms stars of the week who achieved 100%, who got 6 out of 6 questions right, and are also going to be receiving Rose points are these wonderful people. So just have a look now. If your name is on there, give yourself a pat on the back. You've earned yourself a Rose point. So well done to the people in that yellow box there. And I'm sure if you're not on it, you can get on the Microsoft Stars slide next lesson by completing today's Microsoft form and hopefully getting 100%. Okay, so a bit more feedback from last lesson's work. So this is my start of the week for the class work that was submitted to me that I thought was excellent. So that those people there. So well done if you're on that. In that yellow box, you're one of the stars of the week for quality classwork submitted to me. Just wanted to give you some even better feedback from the question regarding total coronavirus cases in the UK. Remember, I asked you how to describe how total coronavirus cases have changed in the UK. And this is the feedback. Some of you didn't really use figures from the graph. So for example, I wanted you to do that. So you could have said something like from February to October, cases increased by 500,000 K. You could have also used keywords when describing trends. For example, you could have used increasing, decreasing, rapidly, steadily. Some of you just said coronavirus cases have gone up from 0 to 2,500 K. Yeah, that isn't particularly technical. You need to kind of be more specific using keywords. And finally, don't describe the graph in one sentence. I'm just going to hide this taskbar. So what I wanted you to do was to split your descriptions into 2 sentences to cover sufficient detail. So in the model answer I gave you, I wanted you to say between February and October, coronavirus cases steadily increased from 0 to 500K. And then splitting the descriptions, you could have said from October to December, cases rapidly increased from 500K to 2,500. So that's my feedback. So we're going to practice this skill one more time. I'd like you now to describe how England's population changed. This is exactly the same style as last lesson, exactly the same type of line graph. We've got millions here on the left, and we've got the years, 1100 to 2000 here along the bottom. This should take about 5 minutes. So this is your success criteria. Describe the trend between the years 1100 and 1800. Give specific examples from the graph. Describe the trend. This is you splitting up your descriptions to get sufficient detail in your description. Describe the trend between 1800 and 2000, between these 2 places here, and give specific examples of that. and then explain how the two trends are different. Okay, you've got some sentence starters along the left here for you to help you out as well. So press pause now and complete the task. So press pause if you haven't already. Okay, the model answer, so you should have completed that now, is below. Your answer should look like something like this. It should read something like this. Generally, England's population steadily increased between the year 1100 to 1800. That's your 1 mark. You've described the trend. For example, in the year 1100, the population of England was 1 million, and by 1800, it was 9 million. That's a 2nd mark. I've given examples of how it's increased, by how much. Next sentence. This is a slower rate of growth. So straight away, I've explained how the two trends are different. I said it's a slower rate of growth. This is a slower rate of growth than between the years 1800 to 2000, where the population of England rapidly increased. So that's my 3rd mark there. I've described the general trend. I said how it's a different rate of growth. For example, by the year 2000, the population of England had reached nearly 50 million. I've given the example. And I can actually add a sentence to that because it's 2020 now, so 20 years later, and the population of England is close to 70 million now. So it just shows you how much populations are increasing. So if you got 4 marks, well done. Can you just write that model answer in, please, or mark your own work and add to what you didn't put in now? So just press pause and do that. Okay, you should have marked your work now and written this model answer in. Now going to move on. So our keywords for today's learning, remember we're learning about population explosion today, are these: population explosion, which is a sudden rapid rise in the number of people, like from 1950, global population went through a population explosion. Sanitation, this is how clean something is, for example, drinking water. And infant mortality rate. Now, I know we might have come across these words before, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of them again and remind you. An infant mortality rate, this is the number of infant deaths under the age of 1 for every 1,000 live births. So they're all interlinked to each other, aren't they? Sanitation, infant mortality rate, all have an impact on population explosion. So just press pause now and copy these definitions out on your Word document or on your A4 piece of paper. Okay, you should have copied out those definitions on your Word document or on your A4 piece of paper. What we're going to move on now is we're going to look at this graph. I just wanted to show you it before we have a go at some calculations. So when we look at these types of graphs, and I think you know this now, the steepness of the lines tell us the rate of growth. So again, we've got the number of people in billions here along the left, along the top, and then we've got the years along the bottom as normal. But instead of there being one line, there's 2 lines on this graph. So the pink dotted line, this one, shows you developing countries. Okay, so we've learned them as LICs, less low income countries. And then the blue line, which is flatter and along the bottom here, is for developed countries. So we've learned these as ACs, advanced countries. So straight away, by looking at this graph, if this graph is telling me population growth, I can see that in developing countries, population has grown, kind of rapidly increased, has grown at a fast rate. Whereas in developed countries, advanced countries, population has grown, but very slowly. And it's almost evening out here as we go into 2030, 2040. So 2 very different projections and trends for developed and developing countries for population growth. And we're going to have a look at that in a second in more deeply. So I'm asking the question today, and we're going to be working this out: how much has the population changed in developed countries? So to do that, we're going to work out the percentage increase of population change. So we've got the developed population in 1950, which is 1400, and then in 2000 it was 1600. So we need to work out the percentage increase. Now, I've already got the answer here because this is an example that I'm going to talk through now. And if you have a calculator, get that up ready to kind of follow along and do the sums with me. I know the answers are already on the slide, but I just want you to practice doing this calculation. So just press pause now and just get your calculator out on your phone, or if you have your own, just get it out now. So to work out percentage increase, we need to follow along the black, what's written in the black font here. So the first thing we do is we minus the new population, which is 1600 in 2000, from the original population, which is 1400, which is in 1950. And that will tell us the change. So not the percentage increase yet, that just tells us the change. So the sum is going to be 1600, which is 1600 million, remember this is in millions, minus 1400 million. And that means we get 200 million. And I can tell that anyway without really needing a calculator. I can quite easily minus 1600 from 1400. You get 200. So the population change is 200 million. Now what we need to do, if we look at the font in black here, where the formula is, the kind of equation, is we need to get the population change, which is 200 million, and then divide it by the original population, which was in 1950, which was 1400. Once we've got the answer to that, we then times it by 100 to make it into a percentage, and then we have our percentage increase. There we have our answer. So the sum is going to be, remember if it's in brackets, you always do that sum first. We're going to divide 200 million, which is our population change. We're going to divide that by 1400 million, which is our original population from 1950. And then we're going to times that by 100. And what we end up with is 14.3%. And that is our population change. So the population increased by 14.3% in developed countries between 1950 and 2000. That's what this number means, this percentage means. It's telling me how much population has increased in developed countries between 1950 and 2000. Okay, so I've just kind of talked you through how to do it. If you just want to press pause, if you haven't already, and just copy the formula in black writing in your book, just so you have it there in front of you to refer to at all times. So just copy the formula in black writing now in your book, just so you have it there. And then we're going to have a go at doing this on our own quite soon. So press pause now and do that if you haven't already. Okay, we're going to move on. So we're going to have another go at doing this, but this time you're going to do it with me. So we're going to do exactly the same that we've just done, but we're going to be doing it for developing populations. We're going to be working out the percentage increase for developing population between 1950 and 2000. So what we need to do is get our new population in 2000, which is 5,700, and we need to minus it from our original population, which is 2,800, to work out the population change. So can you do that now with your calculator? Okay, what you should have got is 2,900 million. That's what we get when we minus 2,800 from 5,700. Okay, 2,900 million. Okay, our next change. Can any of you remember what our next step is? You should have written it down on your A4 bit of paper or into your Word document. This is what you've got to do. Stage 2, you need to divide that change, 2,900 million, by 1950, the original population in 1950, and then times it by 100 to get your percentage change or increase. So do that now. Press pause. Okay, you should have done that sum. You should have divided the change, 2,900, with the original population, which is 2,800. Then you should have times it by 100 to get your population change. The correct answer was 103.6%. I've just rounded it to one decimal place there, percent change. So what does that mean? It means that the population of developing countries increased by 103.6%. I've rounded it up to 104 here, between 1950 and 2000. Okay, so hopefully you've understood that, and hopefully that's what you got right. If you didn't end up with that figure at the end, I want you to just rewind this video recording and watch again the explanation of me doing it. Maybe have another look at the formula and have another go until you're confident you can do it yourself. For those that are confident that they can do it themselves, we're going to carry on. So if you are confident, don't press pause. If you're not confident you can do this yet, just rewind, watch the explanation again. Okay, so you're going to do this on your own now. We're going to be looking at statistics from the future, how population might change in the future. You're going to be working out the percentage increase for developed populations between 2050 and 2150, and you're going to be working out the percentage increase for developing populations in between 2050 and 2150 as well. Okay, so obviously these are predicted numbers, but they're pretty accurate. So have your calculator ready, use this process here. Again, I've got this on the slide for you to work out the percentage increase. If you're ready, press pause and off you go. Press pause. Okay, year 8, we're going to have a look at the answers now. Did you get 50% as a percentage increase for a developed population? Did you get 11.1%, 11% for the developing population? If you did, very well done, really impressed. If you didn't, why don't you watch again the last 10 minutes and have another go, or just have another go at doing it. Remember to be really careful getting your formula right. I think the most important thing is when we work out our change, when we minus a new population from the old, we have our change. You divide that by the original population, and then you times it by 100. And once you've done that, you should have the correct answer. Okay, so I'm just going to move on now. What does this tell us? So we've worked out all these percentage increases of populations from 1950 to 2000 in developed and developing populations. We've worked out the percentage increase in populations between 2050 and 2150. But what does this tell us? So what it does tell us is that between 1950 and 2000 in developing countries, there was a population explosion. It's actually increased by double the amount. So it's increased by 104%. That's a population explosion. Okay, and we're going to be looking at reasons for that in a second. And also it's telling us that in the future, from 2050, so 30 years away, 29 years away, population growth will have slowed down, especially in developing countries. Have a look at that. So in 50 years, population would have slowed down from increasing at a rate of 104% to only a rate of 11% in developing countries. Whereas in developed countries, it slightly increased, but generally it would have slowed down population growth. So this is your task. Using facts and figures from the table, this table here, write a paragraph describing and comparing the percentage increase, that's population change, in developed and developing nations between 1950 and 2150. So that's a long way to write it. But what I'm asking you is, tell me what the table is telling us. What's the table suggesting about population change between 1950 and 2000? And use facts and figures. So you need to be using these percentages here to support your answer. So just remember, 104% in developing populations, that's population explosion. Population growth would have slowed down by 2050. This is your success criteria to complete this task. So describe the size of each increase. So in developed countries, the population increase, you could either say slowly increased or rapidly increased, for example, by 14.3%. And then I want you to describe how the population changes are different to each other. So you could say something like, this change is smaller or greater than in developed or developing countries, or between 1950 and 2000 and 2050 and 2150, for example. So it's quite clear that the population change was a lot greater in developing countries between 1950 and 2000 compared to developed. So have a go at doing that now. Press pause. Suggested time to complete this task, 5 to 10 minutes. You've got your question here at the top. Off you go, press pause. Okay, you should have had an effort at that question now. Maybe just look through your answer again. Make sure you're meeting the success criteria. You've used facts and figures from the table. You've compared the percentage increases between the years and between the developed and developing countries. Let's have a look at a model answer now. So your first sentence should have sounded something like this. In developed countries, between 1950 and 2000, the population slowly increased by 14%. That's true, isn't it? Just here, 14%. However, in developing countries, we saw a population explosion as population rapidly increased by 104% between 1950 and 2000. So do you see how I've compared the two? Just in those two sentences, I said one increased slowly, whereas in developed countries, where population increased, had a population explosion in developing countries. And I've used facts and figures. Then you should have said, we're going to move on now to population increase between 2050 and 2150. You should have said, in the future, between 2050 and 2150, the populations of developed countries are predicted to increase by 50%, a faster rate than before. Which is true, 50% is a faster rate of increase in developed countries compared with 14%. However, in developing countries, between 2050 and 2150, the population will slowly increase by 11%. It's not a population explosion, which is why I say a far slower rate than between 1950 and 2000. Okay, so just press pause now. Make sure you've got those answers in, or just write out this model answer if you really struggled or your answer doesn't look like this. But make sure this is on your A4 sheet or on your Word document, please. So just press pause and do that. Make your corrections. Okay, we're going to move on now. So we're going to ask ourselves now, just for remaining time of the lesson, why has global population exploded since 1950? Why are we projected for a 104% increase of population in developing countries? I mean, if you look at this picture, this is, I think, in Mumbai, in India. It just gives you an example of how many people there are in some developing countries. So there are three main reasons why. Okay, these aren't the only reasons, but I would argue that these are the three main reasons. So the first reason is increased education. So more people are receiving an education, so they're becoming literal. Their literacy rate has increased. Sorry. This means that people are more aware of diseases and how to prevent and treat them. The more educated you are, probably the more money you're going to earn, the easier it is to treat diseases, and the more aware you are of how diseases spread, and you can probably afford medicine as well. Second main reason is there's been improved or better access to hospitals and medicine to humans. This reduces infant mortality rate. Now I've got the keyword reminder here. It increases birth rate and it reduces death rate as diseases can be quickly treated and cured. So if you can access hospital and medicine easier, then there's going to be less people dying because people can treat their diseases. More babies are going to survive, so that reduces infant mortality rate. And if infant mortality rate is being reduced, that means birth rate is going to increase. There's going to be more babies surviving. So better and improved access to hospitals and medicine has made a real impact on people being able to survive, basically, and people are living longer and more people are being born. This all increases the population. Finally, the other main reason, in my opinion, is better sanitation. Remember how clean something is. So better sanitation stops people catching diseases in the first place. Therefore, it reduces the death rate, and you could argue it also reduces infant mortality rate, and it allows people to get more of an education. Generally, it's really made an impact of reducing diseases being caught and people dying. Therefore, people are living longer, more babies are being born, and population increases. Okay, so they're the three main reasons. What I want you to do now is suggest reasons why global population has increased. I've just got this fill in the gap task for you to do. You've got the missing words here. I would like you to write it all out, please, either on your Word document or on your piece of paper. You need to just put the missing words into the gaps. The missing words are here. Press pause. This task should take you 5 to 10 minutes, so press pause now. Okay, you should have completed this task and filled in the gaps and written out this paragraph of the reasons why global population has increased. So we are going to have a look at the answers now. So all the answers are in bold. So just give yourself a tick if you got them right, or just write them in if you got it wrong. So one reason for population explosion growth is improvement of healthcare. This is because better medicine and doctors mean people live longer, therefore reducing death rate. This also means that infant mortality rate decreases due to better care for infants, and therefore birth rate increases due to improved sanitation and access to medicine. Did you get them all right? Well done if you did. If you got kind of one or two wrong, don't worry, that's still pretty good. But make sure you're happy with it and you kind of written all the answers correctly down, please. Okay, we're coming up to the end of we're actually at the end of the lesson now. So your plenary, just your task at the end, is to complete the short Google form quiz, please. Okay, so the quiz is on population explosion. You can either copy and paste it from this PowerPoint here. So the PowerPoint, remember, is attached to the assignment and can also be found in class files. I've also copy and pasted this link into your assignment as well, and I can put it on the chat as well. So your final task for today, make sure you have completed this quick Google form quiz for today's learning. And when you've done that, remember to upload your work, turn in your work through the assignment on your Microsoft team. If you can't do that, you can email me the work. But thank you very much for the lesson. I look forward to seeing your work, and hopefully more of you can get 100% on the quiz and earn more Rose points. Okay, thank you very much, Jure.